How are you guys doing? Today is Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review the Elite matchups and performances from yesterday, Tuesday, February 1st, 2022. Taking a quick step back and looking at where we are, college basketball is in the second half of its season, as well as the pro basketball season. The NFL is in its end game as the Super Bowl matchup has been selected, and the Pro Bowl comes up this weekend. Not to mention that in soccer, the African Cup of Nations is down to 4 teams, and after today, it will be 3. Not to mention that there are other teams that are still qualifying for their World Cup bid. With that said, first taking a look at what went down at the collegiate level. Of course, now we are in the college basketball season. Now that the college football season is long gone, it ended this past month. In college basketball, the top-ranked team in the nation, the Auburn Tigers, hosted the unranked Alabama Crimson Tide from within their own state. Auburn would end up winning this game 100-81. They won this game by 19 after outscoring Alabama by 14 in the first half. On the winning end of this matchup, the top-ranked Auburn Tigers were led in scoring by their guard off the bench, Wendell Green Jr. out of Detroit, Michigan. He would go on to finish with 23 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists in 27 minutes. He shot 8 for 17 from the field and a perfect 5 for 5 from the foul line. With this win, the top-ranked Auburn Tigers are now 21-1. They are now 9-0 in the SEC. They have the best record in their conference, as the second best team in the SEC has 2 losses at this point. With this loss, the unranked Alabama Crimson Tide are now 14-8. They are 4-5 in the SEC. Looking at the 10th ranked team in the nation, the Kansas Jayhawks would go to Iowa to face off against the 20th ranked Iowa State Cyclones. Kansas would beat Iowa 70-61 in this top 25 matchup. Kansas won this matchup 70-61. They won it by 6 after outscoring Iowa State, or they won by 9 after outscoring Iowa State by 6 in the first half. On the losing end of this matchup, the 20th ranked Iowa State Cyclones were led in scoring by their starting guard, Isaiah Brockington. He finished with 24 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 steals in 36 minutes. He shot 11 for 28 from the field and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the 10th ranked Kansas Jayhawks were led in scoring by their starting forward, David McCormick, out of Norfolk, Virginia. Not to mention they were also led in scoring by their starting guard, DeJuan Harris Jr. out of Columbia, Missouri. McCormick finished with 14 points, 14 rebounds, and 2 blocks in 31 minutes. He shot a perfect 7 for 7 from the field. Harris finished with 14 points, 8 assists, and 4 steals in 38 minutes. He shot 6 for 8 from the field and 2 for 3 from the foul line. With this win, the 10th ranked Kansas Jayhawks are 18-3. They are now 7-1 in the Big 12. They have the best record in their conference. They're the only team with 1 loss so far. With this loss, the 20th ranked Iowa State Cyclones are now 16-6. They are 3-6 in the Big 12. All of their losses have come in conference play. Taking a look now at what's going on with the 13th ranked team in the nation, the Michigan State Spartans would go to College Park, Maryland to face off against the unranked Terps. Michigan State would beat Maryland 65-63. They won this game by 2 after outscoring Maryland by 10 in the first half. On the winning end of this matchup, the Michigan State Spartans were led in scoring by their forward off the bench, Malik Hall, out of Aurora, Illinois. He finished with 16 points in 25 minutes. He shot 6 for 12 from the field. He made his only 3-pointer of the day, and he shot 3 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the 13th ranked Michigan State Spartans are now 17-4. They are now 8-2 in the Big Ten. They are tied with Wisconsin and Illinois for the best record in the conference at the moment. And with this loss, the unranked Maryland Terrapins are 11-11. They are 3-8 in the Big Ten. Looking at the 14th ranked team in the nation, the Texas Tech Red Raiders hosted the 23rd ranked Texas Longhorns. Texas Tech would beat Texas 77-64. They won this matchup by 13 after outscoring Texas by 14 in the first half. On the losing end of this matchup, the 23rd ranked Texas Longhorns were led in scoring by their starting guard, Marcus Carr, out of Ontario. He would go on to finish with 18 points in 31 minutes. He shot 5 for 12 from the field. He would go on to shoot 7 for 8 from the foul line as well. On the winning end of this matchup, the 14th ranked Texas Tech Red Raiders were led in scoring by their starting guard, Kevin McCullough, out of San Antonio, Texas. He will go on to finish with 19 points and 6 rebounds as well as 2 blocks. All of this in 32 minutes. He shot 3 for 7 from the field and 12 for 15 from the foul line. With this win, the 14th ranked Texas Tech Red Raiders are 17-5. They are 6-3 in the Big 12. That is the third best record in the conference. With this loss, the 23rd ranked Texas Longhorns are now 16-6. They are now 5-4 in the conference. Taking a look now at what's going on with the 15th ranked team in the nation, the Providence Friars will go to Queens to face off against the unranked St. John's Red Storm. Providence beat St. John's 86-82. They won this matchup by 4 after outscoring St. John's by 8 in the first half. On the winning end of this matchup, the 15th ranked Providence Friars were led in scoring by their guard off the bench, Jared Bynum. Their junior out of Maryland will go on to finish with 19 points in 30 minutes. He shot 5 for 8 from the field, 4 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 5 for 5 from the foul line. With this win, the 15th ranked Providence Friars are now 19-2. They are 9-1 in the Big East as they currently have the best record in the conference. With this loss, unranked St. John's is 11-9. They are now 3-6 in the Big East. That is the third worst record in the conference. Taking a look now at what is going on with the 17th ranked team in the nation, the UConn Huskies would host the unranked Creighton Blue Jays. Creighton would upset UConn, winning this matchup 59-55 in front of UConn's home fans. Creighton won this matchup by 4 after outscoring UConn by 10 in the first half. On the losing end of this matchup, the 17th ranked UConn Huskies were led in scoring by their starting forward, Isaiah Whaley out of North Carolina. He would go on to finish with 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 blocks in 33 minutes. He shot 8 for 13 from the field and 4 for 8 from 3. On the winning end of this matchup, the unranked Creighton Blue Jays were led in scoring by their starting forward, Ryan Hawkins. Their starting forward out of Iowa would go on to finish with 23 points and 11 rebounds in 36 minutes. He shot 8 for 12 from the field, 4 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. With this win, the unranked Creighton Blue Jays are now 13-7. They are now 5-4. In the Big East. And with this loss, the 17th ranked UConn Huskies are now 15-5. They are now 6-3 in the Big East. That is the third best record in the conference still. Then, of course, taking a look at what went down with the 22nd ranked team in the nation, the Tennessee Volunteers hosted the unranked Texas A&M Aggies. Tennessee would beat Texas A&M 90-80. They won this matchup by 10 after outscoring the Aggies by 8 in the first half. On the winning end of this matchup, the 22nd ranked Volunteers were led in scoring by their starting guard, Kennedy Chandler. Their starting freshman out of Memphis would go on to finish with 16 points, 7 assists, and 3 steals. All of this in 30 minutes. He shot 5 for 11 from the field, and he shot 5 for 6 from the foul line. With this win, the 22nd ranked Tennessee Volunteers are now 15-6. They are now 6-3 in the SEC. That is the third best record in conference play. With this loss, the unranked Texas A&M Aggies are now 15-7. They are now 4-5 in the SEC. Last but not least, looking at the 25th ranked team in the nation, the LSU Tigers hosted the unranked Ole Miss Rebels, and the unranked Rebels would upset the 25th ranked Tigers, winning this matchup 76-72. Ole Miss won this matchup by 4 after outscoring LSU by 13 in the first half. On the losing end of this matchup, the 25th ranked LSU Tigers were led in scoring by their starting forward, Darius Days out of Raleigh, Florida. He will go on to finish with 21 points, 13 rebounds, and 2 steals in 34 minutes. He shot 8 for 17 from the field, and he shot 5 for 9 from 3. On the winning end of this matchup, the unranked Ole Miss Rebels were led in scoring by their starting guard, Deshaun Ruffin. Their starting freshman out of Jackson, Mississippi, would finish with 19 points and 2 steals in 20 minutes. He shot 6 for 11 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and a perfect 5 for 5 from the foul line. With this win, the unranked Ole Miss Rebels are 12-10. They are 3-6 in the SEC. With this loss, the 25th ranked LSU Tigers are now 16-6. They are now 4-5 in the SEC. Looking at what's going on with today's matchups, going in chronological order, looking at the top 25 teams that are going to be playing today. At 7 o'clock, the unranked Minnesota Golden Gophers are going to host fourth-ranked Purdue in Williams Arena in Minneapolis, Minnesota. That's going to be on Big Ten Network. Purdue enters this matchup with a 7-3 record in the Big Ten. At the same time, at 7, the fifth-ranked Kentucky Wildcats are going to host unranked Vanderbilt on SEC Network in Lexington, Kentucky. Kentucky enters this matchup with a 6-2 SEC record. At the same time, the 21st-ranked Xavier Musketeers are going to host the unranked Butler Bulldogs on CBS Sports Network in Cincinnati, Ohio. 21st-ranked Xavier is 5-4 in the Big East. At 8 o'clock, the 6th-ranked Houston Cougars are going to host the unranked Tulane Green Wave on ESPN Plus in Houston, Texas. Houston enters this matchup with a 7-0 record in the American Conference. At 9, the 18th-ranked Illinois Fighting Illini are going to host the 11th-ranked Wisconsin Badgers on Big Ten Network. This is going to be the only matchup today that features this is going to be the one of two matchups that features two top 25 opponents. This is going to take place in Champaign, Illinois. Wisconsin enters Illinois with an 8-2 record, and Illinois is going to host Wisconsin with an 8-2 record in the Big Ten. Taking a look at what's going on 1 hour later at 10 o'clock on FS1, the 24th-ranked Marquette Eagles are going to host the 12th-ranked Villanova Wildcats on FS1 in Pfizer V Forum in Milwaukee. Villanova enters this matchup with a 9-2 record in the Big East, and Marquette enters this matchup with a 7-4 record in the Big East for right now. That's what I got for you for college basketball. Taking a quick glance at what's going on with the NFL, the Pro Bowl matches have, of course, been set. The Super Bowl matchup has, of course, been set. But the next upcoming football game will be the Pro Bowl. That will take place on Sunday at 3 o'clock. Taking a look at what's going on in the NBA, starting off in Detroit, the Pistons hosted the New Orleans Pelicans. The Pelicans would beat the Pistons 111-101. The Pelicans won this matchup by 10 after outscoring the Pistons by 18 in the second half, by 13 in the fourth quarter to come from behind and win. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Detroit Pistons were led in scoring by their starting point guard, Corey Joseph. He finished with 18 points in 30 minutes. He shot 7 for 14 from the field and a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the New Orleans Pelicans were led in scoring by their elite starting small forward out of Duke, Brandon Ingram. Ingram finished with 26 points, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists in 32 minutes. He shot 8 for 18 from the field. He made his only 3-point attempt on the night, and he shot 9 for 10 from the foul line. Their starting center, Jonas Valanciunas, finished with 13 points and 13 assists in 29 minutes. He shot 4 for 9 from the field and 5 for 6 from the foul line. With this win, the New Orleans Pelicans are now 19-32. That is currently the 5th worst record in the Western Conference. They've won 4 of their last 10 games, and they currently sit 6 games behind the 8th seed Los Angeles Clippers out west. With this loss, the Detroit Pistons are now 12-38. That is currently the 2nd worst record in the Eastern Conference. They've lost 7 of their last 10 games. They currently sit 14.5 games behind the 8th seed Toronto Raptors outside of the Eastern Conference playoff picture. Taking a look at what's going down in Milwaukee, the defending champs, Milwaukee Bucks, hosted the Washington Wizards, and the Bucks would beat the Wizards 112-198. The Bucks won this matchup by 14 after outscoring the Wizards by 13 in the first half, and then by an additional 9 in the fourth quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the Washington Wizards were led in scoring by their starting small forward, Kyle Kuzma. Kuzma finished with 25 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 blocks in 35 minutes. He shot 9 for 19 from the field, 3 for 8 from 3, and 4 for 6 from the foul line. Their center off the bench, Montrezl Harrell, finished with 20 points and 5 rebounds in 26 minutes. He shot 9 for 15 from the field and 2 for 4 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Milwaukee Bucks were led in scoring by their elite starting power forward and last year's Finals MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo. He finished with 33 points, 15 rebounds, 11 assists, and 2 blocks in 38 minutes. He shot 14 for 21 from the field and a perfect 5 for 5 from the foul line. Their starting point guard out of UCLA, Drew Holiday, finished with 22 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 steals in 36 minutes. He shot 9 for 16 from the field and 4 for 5 from 3. With this win, the Milwaukee Bucks are now 32-21. That is the 5th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've won 6 of their last 10 games as they sit a game and a half behind the Eastern Conference leading Chicago Bulls. With this loss, the Washington Wizards are now 23-27. That is the fourth worst record in the Eastern Conference. They've now lost their last 6 games. That is the longest losing streak in the Eastern Conference and the second longest losing streak in the NBA behind the Sacramento Kings. The Wizards have lost 7 of their last 10 games as they now sit 3.5 games behind the 8 seed Toronto Raptors out east. Taking a look at what's going on with the Toronto Raptors north of the border, they hosted the Miami Heat. They were able to beat the Heat 110-106. They won this matchup by 4 after outscoring the Heat by 9 in the third quarter and by 7 in the fourth, by a combined 16 in the second half. On the losing end of this matchup, the Miami Heat were led in scoring by their starting center out of Kentucky, Bam Adebayo. He finished with 32 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 steals, as well as 2 assists in 35 minutes. He shot 13 for 17 from the field and 6 for 7 from the foul line. Their elite starting small forward, Jimmy Butler, finished with 16 points, 8 rebounds, 12 assists, and 2 steals in 40 minutes. He shot 3 for 10 from the field and a perfect 10 for 10 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Toronto Raptors were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard out of Duke, Gary Trent Jr. Gary Trent Jr. finished with 33 points in 41 minutes, as well as 2 rebounds in that span. He shot 11 for 20 from the field, 6 for 10 from 3, and 5 for 8 from the foul line. Their starting point guard, Fred VanVleet, out of Wichita State, finished with 21 points and 6 assists, as well as 3 steals in 38 minutes. He shot 5 for 11 from the field, and he would go on to shoot 9 for 11 from 3. Their starting power forward, Pascal Siakam, finished with 16 points, 14 rebounds, and 3 steals in 35 minutes. He shot 5 for 14 from the field, and he shot 5 for 7 from the foul line. With this win, the Toronto Raptors are now 26-23. That is currently the 8th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've won their last 3 games, and they've won 6 of their last 10. At the moment, they sit 5.5 games behind the Eastern Conference leading Chicago Bulls. With this loss, the Miami Heat are 32-20. That is the 3rd best record in the East. They have now lost their last 3 games, and they've lost 5 of their last 10. They still sit a full game behind the Eastern Conference leading Chicago Bulls, as both teams have 32 wins. The Heat just have 2 more losses than the Bulls. Speaking of the Bulls hosted the Orlando Magic in Chicago. The Bulls would beat the Magic 126-115. They won this matchup by 11 after they outscored Orlando by 7 in the first half. They outscored Orlando in every single quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the Magic were led in scoring by their starting center out of Duke, Wendell Carter Jr. He finished with 24 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists in 34 minutes. He shot 11 for 15 from the field, and he made his only free throw of the day. Their starting small forward out of Michigan, Franz Wagner, finished with 22 points in 33 minutes. He shot 9 for 16 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and 1 for 2 from the foul line. Their starting point guard, Cole Anthony, finished with 20 points, 6 rebounds, 9 assists, and 2 steals in 35 minutes. He shot 7 for 16 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Chicago Bulls were led in scoring by their starting small forward and NBA All-Star starter DeMar DeRozan. DeRozan finished with 29 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals in 37 minutes. He shot 12 for 20 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. Their starting shooting guard out of UCLA, Zach LaVine, finished with 26 points and 5 rebounds in 36 minutes. He shot 8 for 17 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 8 for 8 from the foul line. Their starting center, Nikola Vucevic, finished with 18 points and 13 rebounds, as well as 3 blocks in 35 minutes. He shot 8 for 17 from the field and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the Chicago Bulls are now 32-18. That is the best record in the Eastern Conference. They've won their last 2 games, and they've won 5 of their last 10. They currently sit a full game ahead of the Philadelphia 76ers and the Miami Heat out east. And with this loss, the Orlando Magic are now 11-41. That is currently the worst record in the Eastern Conference and the worst record in the NBA. They've lost 6 of their last 10 games. They currently sit 16.5 games behind the 8 seed Toronto Raptors out east. Taking a look at what's going on in Minneapolis, the Timberwolves hosted the Denver Nuggets. The Minnesota Timberwolves would beat the Denver Nuggets 130-115. The T-Wolves won this game by 15 after outscoring the Nuggets by 16 in the second quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the Denver Nuggets were led in scoring by their elite starting center, and last year's regular season MVP, Nikola Jokic. Jokic finished with 21 points, 16 rebounds, 8 assists, and 5 turnovers in 30 minutes. He shot 6 for 12 from the field, and he will go on to shoot 1 for 4 from 3 and 8 for 9 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Minnesota Timberwolves were led in scoring by their elite starting center, Karl-Anthony Towns. He finished with 24 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists, as well as 2 steals in 28 minutes. He would go on to shoot 8 for 12 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3, and he shot 7 for 8 from the foul line. Their elite starting small forward out of Georgia, Anthony Edwards, finished with 5 points and 2 assists in 26 minutes. He shot 2 for 8 from the field and 1 for 6 from 3. Their power forward off the bench out of Baylor, Taurean Prince, finished with 23 points, 9 rebounds, and 2 steals in 24 minutes. He shot 8 for 12 from the field, 6 for 9 from 3, and he shot 1 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the Minnesota Timberwolves are now 26-25. That is the 7th best record in the Western Conference. They've won their last 2 games, and they've won 6 of their last 10. They sit 15.5 games behind the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns. With this loss, the Denver Nuggets are now 28-22. That is the 6th best record in the West. They've lost 3 of their last 10 games, and they trail the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns by 13 games at the moment. Last but not least, but jumping to San Antonio, Texas, the Spurs hosted the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors would beat the Spurs 124-120. Warriors won this matchup by 4 after outscoring the Spurs by 19 in the fourth quarter to overcome their 15-point deficit. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown San Antonio Spurs were led in scoring by their starting point guard, DeJounte Murray. Murray finished with 27 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists, 2 steals, and 6 turnovers in 38 minutes. He shot 12 for 21 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3, and 2 for 3 from the foul line. Their starting small forward, Keldon Johnson, finished with 21 points in 35 minutes. He shot 8 for 10 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and he shot 2 for 4 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Golden State Warriors were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard, Jordan Poole. Poole finished with 31 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists in 34 minutes. He shot 9 for 24 from the field, 4 for 13 from 3, and he shot a perfect 9 for 9 from the foul line. Their starting shooting guard, Damian Lee, out of Louisville, will go on to finish with 21 points, as well as 5 rebounds and 2 steals in 37 minutes. He shot 7 for 15 from the field, 5 for 10 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Their starting guard, Moses Moody, out of Arkansas, will go on to finish with 20 points and 7 rebounds in 37 minutes. He shot 6 for 12 from the field. All of his made attempts were from 3. He was 6 for 10 from 3, and he shot a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. And of course, with this win, the Golden State Warriors are now 39-13. That is the 2nd best record in the Western Conference. They've now won their last 7 games. That is the 2nd longest winning streak in the NBA and the 2nd longest winning streak in the Western Conference to the Phoenix Suns. They've now won 8 of their last 10 games, and they trail the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns by 3 games. With this loss, the San Antonio Spurs are now 19-33. That is the 4th worst record in the Western Conference. They've lost their last 2 games, and they've lost 6 of their last 10. They currently sit 6.5 games behind the 8th seed LA Clippers in the Western Conference. Taking a look at what's going down in Phoenix, last but not least, the Suns hosted the Brooklyn Nets. The Phoenix Suns would beat the Brooklyn Nets 121-111. They won this matchup by 10 after outscoring the Nets by 10 in the first half. On the losing end of this matchup, the Brooklyn Nets were led in scoring by their elite starting point guard out of Duke, Kyrie Irving. Irving finished with 26 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists in 37 minutes. He shot 10 for 20 from the field, 3 for 8 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. Their elite starting shooting guard, James Harden, finished with 22 points, 5 rebounds, and 10 assists in 37 minutes. He shot 6 for 19 from the field, 3 for 8 from 3, and 7 for 9 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Phoenix Suns were led in scoring by their elite starting shooting guard, Devin Booker. He finished with 35 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists in 41 minutes. He shot 13 for 23 from the field, 3 for 8 from 3, and 6 for 7 from the foul line. Their starting small forward, Mikal Bridges, finished with 27 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 steals in 40 minutes. He shot 10 for 14 from the field and 6 for 7 from the foul line. Their elite starting point guard, Chris Paul, finished with 20 points, 4 rebounds, 14 assists, and 2 steals in 39 minutes. He shot 5 for 12 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3, and a perfect 9 for 9 from the foul line. With this win, the Phoenix Suns are now 41-9. That is the best record in the Western Conference. They've also have the longest active winning streak in the NBA. They've won their last 11 games. They sit 3 games ahead of the second-place Golden State Warriors in the conference. With this loss, the Brooklyn Nets are now 29-21. That is the 6th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've now lost their last 5 games. That is the second longest losing streak in the Eastern Conference. They've lost 7 of their last 10. They sit 3 full games behind the first seed Chicago Bulls out east. That is what the NBA is looking like following yesterday's matchups. Taking a look at what's going on today, starting with the primetime matchups. At 7:30 on ESPN, the New York Knicks, who currently hold the 5th worst record in the East, are going to host the Memphis Grizzlies, who are currently holding on to the 3rd best record out west in Madison Square Garden. So, of course, that's going to be a big one to look out for. And then right after that, at 10 o'clock on ESPN, the Utah Jazz, who are currently holding on to the 4th best record in the West, along with a 5-game losing streak, are going to host the Denver Nuggets, who are holding on to the 6th best record in the West at the moment. The Nuggets sit a game and a half behind the 4th seed Jazz right now. Taking a look at the games that aren't going to be on prime time at 7 o'clock, the Indiana Pacers are going to host the Orlando Magic at Gainesbridge Fieldhouse. At the same time, the Philadelphia 76ers are going to host the Washington Wizards at the Wells Fargo Center. At 7:30, the Boston Celtics are going to host the Charlotte Hornets at the TD Garden. At 8 o'clock, the Houston Rockets are going to host the Cleveland Cavaliers at the Toyota Center. At 8:30, the Dallas Mavericks are going to host the Oklahoma City Thunder in the American Airlines Center. At 10 o'clock, the Sacramento Kings are going to host the Brooklyn Nets in the Golden One Center. And then at 10:30, the Los Angeles Lakers are going to host the Portland Trailblazers at the Crypto.com Arena. With that said, that is currently, that's what the NBA is looking like going into today. And then, of course, taking a look at what's going on in the world of soccer, looking at yesterday's matchups that at least were World Cup qualifiers. Looking at the big Asian matchups that took place, Japan was able to beat Saudi Arabia 2-0. Their goals came from Takumi Minamino and Junya Ito. Big win for them as they needed that in the table. And then South Korea was able to beat Syria 2-0. Its 2 goals coming from Kim Jin-soo and Kwang Chae-hoon. They now sit second behind Iran in their FIFA World Cup qualifying table. Taking a look at what's going on in South America, looking at the big matchups from yesterday, Chile was able to beat Bolivia 3-2 off of a brace from their forward, Alexis Sanchez. Bolivia scored the last goal of the game after they were down 3-1 to make it 3-2. But with this win, Chile now sits 6th in the South American table, and Bolivia now sits 8th with this loss. Looking at the second matchup from yesterday, Uruguay was able to beat Venezuela 4-1 as their third goal will come from Edison Cavani, and then their 4th would come from their elite striker Luis Suarez, before Venezuela's lone goal came from the current Atlanta United striker Josef Martinez. With this win, Uruguay now sits 4th among South American countries in qualifying standings, and Venezuela now sits at the very bottom, or they sit 10th out of the qualifying teams in South America for the time being. Taking a look at what's going on, or what happened in Argentina. Argentina was able to beat Colombia 1-0 as its lone goal came from its elite striker Lautaro Martinez in the 29th minute. With this win, Argentina is now sitting second in the table right behind Brazil. Speaking of Brazil was able to beat Paraguay 4-0 as its second goal come from Felipe Coutinho in the second half. Its last goal come from Rodrigo. With this win, Brazil now sits on top of the qualifying table for South America, and that's everything from yesterday. Taking a look at what's going on today, at first looking at the qualifiers in America, or in North America, the U.S. is going to face off against Honduras at 7:30, Mexico versus Panama, and El Salvador, Canada. El Salvador, Canada is going to be at 9, Mexico, Panama is going to be at 10. Taking a look at what's going on today in the African Cup of Nations. Today is the first matchup of the African Cup of the AFCON semifinal. It's going to feature Burkina Faso, who entered this matchup initially as or Burkina Faso initially entered this matchup as the second team in Group A. They're going to face off against Senegal, who was the top team in Group B out of group stage to make it all the way here. The winner of this matchup will, of course, face off in the final, which will take place on Sunday. And the loser of this matchup will take place in the match for third place, which will also take place on Sunday, but right before. That is everything that I have for you today. And I want to thank everyone for listening to all 30 minutes of this piece. I want to thank the ESPN, NCAA, NFL, NBA, and FIFA websites for helping me with all the stats and figures so that I can navigate through the world of sports one day at a time. And I do apologize for butchering any of the names because I do eventually plan on getting them right. And with that said, I do hope all is well. And with that said, once all of today's exhibitions and matchups are done, I'm going to come back tomorrow on Thursday, February 3rd for another episode. And until then, thanks for listening. I hope all is well, and I'll catch you with another episode tomorrow. Peace out.